So now that we've got your OMF and your thumbnail from Premiere, we will open up Audition and we will import that OMF. And I am going to create a folder that's audio files to keep it cleaner. And that has brought in all of the dialogue editing that we've done. Next thing we want to do is grab our thumbnail and drag it to the top. And we will get rid of that. And now we have in our upper left hand corner our video. And so the first thing that we need to do is clean up these tracks. We need to separate them. It's all kind of a mishmash right now. And so we need to separate them by character and by microphone. And so that's what we're going to do next. And so once you've cleaned this up, basically we've got our female character. Her shotgun mic is all set up right here. There's only one take of her lav microphone, so I have that there. And then our dude, we've got his shotgun microphone, and we've got his lav mic, and then I have a room tone underneath the whole thing. What also I've done is I basically got here in the individual volume control and tried to get everything to be about the same size, and I did some soft fades on it to make it all sound normal as much as possible. And this is what it should sound like.
Hey, do you want to see something gross?
No.
Come on, it's pretty gross.
No, thank you.
Don't be a pussy. I'll be your friend.
I don't even know you. Oh, God. I'm never going to be able to unsee that.
I know, right? It's so gross.
Yeah, I do now.
Told you.
Okay, so the levels are fine. The editing is pretty good. Now the next thing we want to do is tie all of our voices to a bus track, and so I'm going to add stereo bus track, and I'm going to open up all of these dudes, and so I'm going to click here and rename that Vox, and we are going to tie all of these dialogue tracks to the Vox. So we will go, instead of the master, we're sending it to the Vox bus. Instead of the master, we're sending it to the Vox bus. And we're going to leave the room tone out of it. And the reason why we're doing this is that once we add our sound effects and our music, dialogue is the most important thing. And so if they start crowding it out, then we can easily just make a simple adjustment on the volume of all of our tracks. And we'll get our jobs done a lot quicker. Now the next thing that I want to do is go in here and clean up our dialogue as much as possible with a couple filters. And so I am going to, so we've got track 1 right here. So I'm going to add a parametric equalizer. And I'm going to find a loop. So hit in, I for in and O for out. And so I'm going to let that run on a loop. And I'm going to start cleaning up as much of the noise as I can on this track. So I'm going to start with the low pass filter. I'm going to set it to 18. And I'm going to cut out all the highs without messing up the voice. So her voice sounds good there. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the high pass filter. And this is cutting out the bass. And there's some bass rumble that I want to get out, but I don't want to hurt the voice. All right, so that's a pretty good start. And now we've got our some points in our filters that I just want to set up to try to clean up some harmonics in the recording. So we want to get everybody in on the game. All right. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take our first one and I'm going to jack up the decibels and I'm going to jack up the Q. And then I'm going to run the dialogue, and I'm going to move this around, and I'm going to wait for these kind of like resonant harmonics that'll kind of sound like an echo chamber a little bit. So. All right, so right about there, I'm hearing a little bit of a resonant hum. So I'm going to set that to -3. And clean that up. And now I'm going to do the same thing with our second. With our second pass. Okay, I hear some resonance right there, so I'm going to set that to -3. And we'll go to the next one. Okay, so right there the resonance sounds like a solar wind. Yeah, so I'm going to set that to -3. And we've got one more to play with. Oh, we got two more to play with. So let's see what we got here. Ooh, got some solar wind there, so we'll set that at -3. We got one more, so let's use it. And there we go. Now I can see it. Okay, and there's a whistle right there, so I'm going to make that go away. And so that's something that we want to do to all of our tracks. This is the same microphone and the same voice, and so we can apply that to just that one track and it'll be fine, but then we want to repeat that for each of these guys. The other thing that I want to do is, well, let's go to the mixer panel. We want to add a mastering filter right here. Let me delete it first. So we'll go to Special, Mastering, and we'll just drop in Subtle Clarity as a starter and take out the reverb that's in that preset. And this is going to make our dialogue louder. And for right now we can just leave it just like that. I've got a hard limiter that we might turn on, we might not. So now that our dialogue work is all done, let's start by adding some sound effects, both diegetic and non-diegetic, because they sound good, but this world is kind of dull and flat and kind of boring story. So the next thing we want to do is add some sound effects that I've provided in your folder. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to deal with our diegetic sound effects. So basically what I've got is we hear footsteps, and we hear the cloth as he sits down, and we hear her cloth as she moves towards him, and then we have cloth rustles here and footsteps as he walks away. And then I added some non-diegetic sound effects that are intended to kind of appeal to the emotions and the strangeness of this story. We've got some weird drones and busted pianos, and this is a rumbling volcano, and this is what it sounds like when all of those are cut together.
Hey, do you want to see something gross?
No.
Come on, it's pretty gross.
No, thank you.
Don't be a pussy. I'll be your friend.
I don't even know you. Oh, God. I'm never going to be able to unsee that.
I know, right? It's so gross.
Yeah, I do now.
Told you.
And so we've got the diegetic sound effects that ground us in the story, and the non-diegetic sound effects that help us track the story emotionally. And then we can get into music. Now, you can cut the music anytime you want. I saved it for last. Once you have that cut, you need to mute it and do your sound effects editing with it off, because otherwise you're going to be missing a lot of opportunities for good sound. I cut in this song, and this is what it sounds like when the music's done, and this would be the final mix.
Hey, do you want to see something gross?
No.
Come on, it's pretty gross.
No, thank you.
Don't be a pussy. I'll be your friend.
I don't even know you. Oh, God. I'm never going to be able to unsee that.
I know, right? It's so gross.
Yeah, I do now.
Told you.
And now it's a whole lot more fun. And so that's the kind of vibe that I want you guys to create for your story.